So some recent NBA news that has been really talked about is the fact that the Sacramento Kings have been shopping their best player, franchise player, and all-star in De'Aaron Fox. And yes, I'm aware that it's been reported that Sacramento has told teams and has told De'Aaron Fox that he's not in trade rumors and he's not on the trade block. But we've heard that before, so I still think there's a chance Sacramento could be shopping De'Aaron Fox on the trade deadline. And honestly, I don't know whether or not it's a smart idea. There's pros and there's cons. And that has led me to make this video where I'll be answering the question of whether or not I think the Sacramento should trade De'Aaron Fox. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Also subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also if you want to help me go over 3,000 subscribers. Also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro. But before we get into the video, I'm gonna give some ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Also subscribe to my channel. To be honest, the biggest case for them not trading De'Aaron Fox is the fact that he's just a fantabulous also player. Drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. He's been a 20-point scorer the last 3 seasons, and although he hasn't been as amazing this season, he's still an all-star level point guard. I think he's a top 10 point guard, and he's one of the best rim attackers in the league. He also has a pretty solid mid-range jump shot, and he has a 3-point shot that's not great, but it's not like he's Russell Westbrook or something. He's still a good, valuable player who's very valuable to this team. So trading will get a guy at that talent is just something you can't just do easily. Also, although it feels like De'Aaron Fox has been in the NBA for quite some time, you gotta realize this guy is only 24 years old, meaning he hasn't even hit his prime yet. Most players who hit their prime at like 26 or 28. That means it's gonna be in a few years for Fox, and hopefully Fox doesn't get some injuries or just completely fall off, because I definitely think he has more room to improve. You also have to take in consideration that Sacramento is a team that's trying to rebuild and make the playoffs at the same time. And in general, they're just a young team. De'Aaron Fox definitely fits that with that because he's still a young player and he's heading into his prime, so he can help them win while being a young player. It's not like he's like 33 or something just here and he can be helping a contender. He can help a contender, but he's still young. My point is he's young. You shouldn't just trade him so easily. Honestly, trading him isn't that smart unless you get some ridiculous package in return for him. You have to realize that when De'Aaron Fox got his huge extension, he didn't necessarily have to sign it. Like most players sign their extensions, but in the past we have seen certain players like Kristaps Porzingis who only signed a 1-year deal, so he could potentially get moved from New York or like sign and go with any other team because he didn't want to be a restricted free agent. So De'Aaron Fox could have done that, and obviously you could be saying, oh, he might have not wanted to do it. He didn't want to get injured and then lose all that money, which is smart. I definitely understand that, but he could have still took that 1-year option and move on from Sacramento. That's been a very disappointing team the last 3 seasons. They haven't even made the playoffs in the last 15 or is it 14 years? Like, that's crazy. So De'Aaron Fox definitely could have seen that terrible situation, said let me get the heck out of here. But he has shown a tremendous amount of loyalty, amount of love to the city and all the fans and even the organization. And even though they haven't been successful, players nowadays would probably leave that situation unless you're Damian Lillard. But Fox has been sticking through. But maybe there's been some rumblings about Fox wanting to leave the team that we don't know about. Who knows? But from what I've seen, Fox is committed to Sacramento no matter how disappointing they are. That's just something you definitely have to consider because players that loyal aren't that common nowadays. Especially when you realize that they reported to him, like it's been reported that they told him that he's not on the trade market and stuff like that. If they go ahead and just trade him, that I know like the NBA is a business and stuff like that, but that's still not a good look because other players who will potentially come to Sacramento will just see how cold-hearted this front office is and how untrustworthy and unloyal they are, and not many players are going to come. Not many players came to Sacramento anyways, but you kind of know what I mean. Something else you have to consider in the De'Aaron Fox trade is the fact that you probably won't get someone who's better than De'Aaron Fox. The 2 guys who have been discussed in most like in the trade for De'Aaron Fox has been Ben Simmons and like Domantas Sabonis. And those have been like, obviously there have been like other pieces like picks and other role players, but like those have been the two best players from the opposite teams. If I'm being honest, I don't think Ben Simmons is better than De'Aaron Fox right now, and I promise you I would not want to have Ben Simmons over Fox. Ben Simmons brings off the court issues that Sacramento just doesn't need. They need to focus on building a good team, not focus on babying Ben Simmons. But I won't lie, Ben Simmons probably has a little bit more potential than Fox, but who knows if he's gonna like reach it, because at least we know De'Aaron Fox is not gonna not shoot the ball in the playoffs. At least De'Aaron Fox is gonna be aggressive. But in the case of Domantas Sabonis, you could argue that like box score wise he is better than Fox, but when you look at like impact wise, I think Fox is the better player. But to be honest, I don't think there's a huge difference between any of them. Like, I don't think if you add Ben Simmons to this roster, you're going to improve a crazy amount. I definitely don't think if you add Domantas Sabonis to this team, you're going to improve a crazy amount. And to be honest, if you wanted to trade for Domantas Sabonis, I think it would make more sense to keep De'Aaron Fox. Maybe they could do a trade with Marvin Bagley, Harrison Barnes, and like 2 first-round picks. I think that would be an amazing trade for Sacramento, because that would give them a legit big 3 of De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, and Sabonis alongside with Buddy Hield. Now that's actually a really good team. But now to talk about like some reasons as to why Sacramento should trade De'Aaron Fox. To discuss some reasons as to why Sacramento should trade De'Aaron Fox, the first thing I want to discuss is the fact that although De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton are 2 very good young guards, and they're one of the most underrated young guard duos in the league, and just straight up underrated duos in the league in general, but the only thing about them is the fact that I feel like both of them are holding each other back from being as great as they fully can be. I'm not saying either of them is playing bad right now. Like, Halliburton is playing absolutely fantastic, destroying all expectations I had for him this season. I feel like Fox can play better, but overall, they're both playing fine. But I still feel like if they were not on the same team together, they both would just unlock and go way more free. And the reason I feel that way is because they're both ball dominant guards, and they're both guards who like to run a lot of pick and rolls and things like that, and both of them starting beside each other is kind of repetitive to a certain degree. I'm not saying like they're a negative, I'm just saying they're not a huge plus, and they don't play amazing off of each other. And I actually feel like they make each other a little bit worse. Like, they don't like Tyrese Halliburton on this team does not make De'Aaron Fox a bad player, but he just doesn't make De'Aaron Fox a great player, and vice versa. And so far in both of their careers, from what we've seen, they haven't been really winning that much games alongside them. I'm not saying they should like for sure trade him just because of that. I'm just saying it's something you should take into consideration, unless you disagree with me. We also have to talk about the fact that there's a chance Sacramento might be getting some strong offers in exchange for De'Aaron Fox. Because although they might not get the best player in the trade, for example, like a Ben Simmons trade or a Domantas Sabonis trade, they might just overall win the trade. For example, if the 76ers were to give them Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, and Tobias Harris in exchange for Fox, Hield, Barnes, and like 2 first-round picks, I think the Kings would walk out of that trade as winners in that trade, because they simply would get Thybulle, who is one of the most intriguing prospects in the league due to the fact that he already might be a top 10 defender in just his 3rd season. He would drastically help this terrible Sacramento Kings defense. They would also get Tobias Harris, who is very hated because of his lackluster play, but he's still a guy who's a solid starter in the league, and he could easily replace Barnes' role and even do better. And even though I did say Ben Simmons is not better than De'Aaron Fox, let's not act like De'Aaron Fox is just way better than Ben Simmons. He's simply not. Also, there's a chance that Ben Simmons could maybe turn his game around, maybe start shooting more, or just at least being more aggressive, and he would definitely transform their defense as well. And them giving up 2 first-round picks is something that would make this trade a huge risk, but I think it's a risk you have to take because you've been a bad team for so long, and just getting a high pick has not been working for this team. So at a certain point, you have to make a big move, try and change up your roster. Maybe. I think that would actually be a really good trade for Sacramento and a good trade for Philadelphia. It would be good for both teams. And to quickly bring up another point, you might want to trade De'Aaron Fox because he is on a large contract, and this season his play has gone down a bit. His 3-point shot has definitely regressed. Maybe you're going to have a little bit of fear with that. I don't. I'm just speaking from Sacramento's point of view. Maybe they're like, oh, De'Aaron Fox is going to fall off. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is going to fall off, but maybe that's a little fear. But to conclude the video and to answer the question of whether or not I think the Sacramento Kings should trade De'Aaron Fox, the answer to me is a straight up no unless they get a really good offer. Like if they get Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle in a move, then I think they should make that trade because it can really transform this team. But if they're just going to trade for Domantas Sabonis and give up Fox, I don't think you should make that move because I don't think that trade makes them way better, to be honest. I actually think it makes them worse. I don't think Philadelphia is going to offer them some crazy deal because Philadelphia is acting like they think Ben Simmons is the best player in the league or something. That's how they've been treating him in these trade rumors. They're not trading him for absolutely anything. So I doubt they're going to get like a crazy like trade from Philadelphia. So honestly, at this point, I think Sacramento just needs to focus on Halliburton and Fox and build around them, but maybe make a trade for a guy like Domantas Sabonis without doing Fox. Because I think Indiana would take a trade with like Marvin Bagley and 2 first-round picks, maybe throw in Harrison Barnes in there for Domantas Sabonis, because they said that they wanted like an intriguing young player and a first-round pick for Miles Turner. Bagley is kind of an intriguing young player, but also Sabonis is better than Turner. So I guess we'll have to see though. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know if you think the Sacramento Kings should drop a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to go with 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro.